Hello, my name is Stephanie Davis and I am the Assistant Community Curator at Lotherton Hall in West Yorkshire. My main experience of co-curating community exhibitions has been based on making people feel welcome and hospitality and building long-term relationships, not just relationships for the duration of one project. Lotherton Hall itself is in the sticks. It's quite out away from the community, so unless people have got their own transport, it's very difficult for them to really get involved with the museum. So I had to figure out a way of getting the local communities involved. Otherwise all my budget was spent on transport. The idea I had was to invite people from Garforth to come to Garforth Library, and we'd have a meeting, we'd do some craft, and I would just listen to them and try and find out what they were interested in. This happened and there was a group of about 12 people and they were interested in doing a textile banner reflecting the memories of the community. So we called it the Memory Map of Lotherton Hall. The banner was completed finally in 2015 and is still on display at Lotherton, and it still makes people ask questions about the local history. One of the outcomes from the memory map was that the group started meeting at Lotherton Hall. They started car sharing. The history group decided they wanted to put displays around the community about the Gascoigne mines, the Gascoigne family being the family that lived at Lotherton Hall. At one point their main income was from the local mines. So they put exhibitions and displays on all around the community, in care homes, in libraries, and the interest was phenomenal. The Elderberries was a group that was just starting in a little village called Swillington, and the chair, Jackie Smith, asked if I would like to do a talk about the mines to kind of spur some sort of interest for this new group. The history group had started doing some oral histories, collecting oral histories and making little digifilms, and that we were putting together this collection. And so one of the miners, who'd never spoken before, decided he would come to Swillington and talk about his experience as a miner. Well, after the talk, another miner named Bill Heselgrave approached him, and apparently they'd worked at the same mine and not known. So Bill said then, well, I've got friends who are miners, I wonder if they'd like to share their stories. So Bill Heselgrave got his friends to join us. And then we all decided that why not do a big exhibition and call it Mining Memories. I said all that to say this, that any quality work, lasting work, always comes from commitment and a willingness to befriend and be patient with people. People are what make objects valuable. What people think of objects, what people think of collections is what makes them valuable. What people think are valuable is sometimes different to what we as museum professionals deem as valuable. And we have to be open to give space and time to projects that definitely engage with people, especially the local community.
With his eyes all closed and his head bowed down, my young man never sleeps. Oh, the rain it falls upon his back, the dust before his eyes is black, and oft the times my young man weeps.
Rescue team were at home, come and took first position. And I'll never forget that Sunday night in canteen at Loft House. Never. I didn't go in no more. I said, I'm not coming in no more. 7 families distraught, kiddies, ladies, absolutely heartbroken. And sorry about that. I remember thinking, I ain't going to come in here no more. So I never went in no more, I used to sit outside. There were doctors with them, there were nurses with them. Every facility that Coalboat could give them, they gave them, except their husbands.
And I said, I've been offered, in 1993 I was offered £5,000 by a book publisher to write a book about pits. But because I were up to neck in this coal resin business, I said I just haven't got time. And I was just talking to her about it. She said, you ought to do that book. And you ought to do it now. So I did. This is it. There's 9 years of my life in there. And it's a complete history of all the pits in Yorkshire that came under the remit of the MCB or British Coal. 440,000 words, 700 illustrations. And it's called now the Yorkshire Bible. Everybody who's got it raves about it.
And George Fairden, we to Blackpool, they also went to Blackpool then. He fixed these spice buttons, they look like pebbles. They got chocolate coated, but they look like a pebble in like a triangle bag. And then we wouldn't have fetched them to Pete it Monday morning, but he put them outside, gone out Sunday night with him at wife. The kids had eaten them all by 3. So I thought, well, I'll get them 3 to Pete. But they were foreigners. So I saw a pebble at Pete had. And put it on that bag and banged him like a kid. Open out he was here. What's that? I like a kid. So we all get one of these spicer pieces and he got pebble. So he puts this pebble in there outside lamp room and he used to like to chomp his spice. His teeth were like little sheep's teeth. He never claimed that they were green and black and yellow. And he puts this pebble and he's sucking it. He takes it out and looks at it and he put it back in and he's trying to chomp it. And he took it out and walked from to Pit Hill. And we'd all stood there carrying and he kept sticking his spices. I called these pebble spice Fairden. And he put it back in it. And he's sucking it, chopping it. And there's tears running down his cheeks then. God.
If you've got chocolate, we've got some caramel buttercream, or we've got some raspberry buttercream. The choice is yours. We've got lots of decorations. It's up to you to decide what these decorations could possibly be.
I was the curator at Lotherton Hall for just over 20 years until I retired in 2015. When I first came to work at Lotherton, there was no community engagement programme, and I always thought there was something missing in the life of the house. We didn't know many of the local people, and we couldn't be sure that what we were doing was what interested them, and what they wanted. Now, thanks to the work of my colleagues in the community team, we have a much better idea. I thought Mining Memories was a brilliant exhibition. Coal was very important to the life of Lotherton, and here were the miners telling their story. Mining Memories inspired another exhibition, Blot on the Landscape, at Temple Newsam House, which was on a similar theme. Coal was equally important to the Menel Ingram family of this house, and it was a mainstay of the local economy. I hope there will be more exhibitions like these at the two houses, which show that places are built on industries. Industries depend on the people who work in them, and the people create communities. That's what it's all about.
Hello, my name is Helen Pratt. I work for Leeds Museums and Galleries. I'm the Assistant Community Curator at Temple Newsam House. This is a country house to the east of Leeds. I'd attended several talks at Lotherton Hall when my colleague Stephanie Davis had helped create Mining Memories along with the history group at Lotherton. The genesis of the idea actually came from the community. It came from the history group. One of the elderberries, an older people's group, a member of the elderberries and a former miner, Bill Heselgrave, came to see me on the last day of the exhibition when they had their final talk, and asked if I would be prepared to do an exhibition at Temple Newsam, because lots of local miners had known that they'd been mining for quite a few hundred years at Temple Newsam, along with local people that had worked at Temple Pits, Temple Newsam Pits and Waterloo Pit there on the estate of Temple Newsam. Blot on the Landscape was born from a request again from a former miner. Bill, as I said before, was from the Elderberries. This is a group that consists of up to 40 people, older people in the community of Swillington, and they meet on a Monday and Friday. They decided, yes, they'd make a rag rug for the exhibition that would go in front of the fire that housed the grate and the coal. We used their creative skills. We worked with the miners. We got miners from South, West and East Yorkshire. It was Eddie Downs, Tony Banks, Steve Wyatt, Dave Hagan and Roger Monks. And Eddie Downs, I was so in awe of him. He had written this book about Yorkshire pits, which was really useful to us all during the research. A volunteer team of researchers. We had Sue Child, Mike Sterland, Richard Watt, Ian Marr and Michael Howarth, and they unearthed, pardon the pun, lots of stories that we wouldn't have found had we not done this exhibition. It was 10 months in the making. It came to fruition on the 10th of May 2019 when we had the launch. The miners read poetry. Some of us who were in a choir, we sang, we had a brass band. It was important that we had a brass band because many collieries had brass bands, and so we tried to recreate the atmosphere of maybe a carnival day in one of the mining villages. I was so incredibly proud of them all and their efforts, and they've been so committed and dedicated and willing to make this happen, that I actually broke down on my thank you speech at the launch. What I did was I entered the blocked volunteers into the Marsh Awards at the British Museum, and we won the regional. We had to go down to London on the 23rd of September last year, 2019, and whilst we were there picking up the regional awards, it was announced that we won the national, so I was elated. was stunned really as well. Didn't know really what to say. But in the acceptance speech, I did tell the audience, Brian Marsh as well, that we'd use the money, we'd continue with projects. The miners still wanted to continue along with the volunteers. We would do a blocked catalogue, so we'd do a catalogue of objects, and we make it a bit interesting. We put the emotions about why the objects were chosen or why the miners had originally bought these objects. During COVID-19, I'm working with the block vols. They are producing pieces of work, narratives for the actual objects. They're doing a volunteer letter. When we hopefully get through lockdown and we can have a semblance of normality, we will hope to launch Eye of the Miner, the travelling art show, which is photographs, sculpture and artwork by miners. And what we intend to do is take it back to former mining communities and stage it in community halls and libraries there. We have had interest by the National Mining Museum. Also, the volunteers are involved in a resilient heritage lottery project that we got some money for to bring the park and the house at Temple Newsam together to work together. And they're involved now in a mining trail which will hopefully include a mining wheel at some point on the estate, but that's in the future. About 8 years ago, I worked with Dr. Helen Graham. She works for the Centre for Critical Studies in Museums and Galleries and Heritage at Leeds University. She was asked to produce a report on community engagement. This report was for Leeds Museums and Galleries, and she used the word reciprocity. When examining our community team practices at Leeds Museums and Galleries, I often think of that word. I think we've got reciprocal, mutual exchanges of ideas, knowledge, skills and resources. All of us, respecting and acknowledging what each of us have to give. I've thought of that word many times when working with block volunteers. I believe that with that particular project, we have had a good example of reciprocal working. We've had the most committed people I think that I've ever worked with. Prior to working in this job for 7 years, for 23 years I worked in further education. So I have worked with some good groups, community groups along the way, but these have been unbelievable. I feel very privileged and proud to have worked with them. Mining Memories and Blot on the Landscape demonstrates how powerful community engagement is and how responsive and interested communities can be for those projects that mean something to them.
When I'd finished my 13 weeks training, I went back to Waterregg and I worked at Waterregg for about 2 or 3 weeks down in the pit bottom. But then they wanted me to go as an apprentice, and so they sent me to work at Temple Newsam as an apprentice fitter, which I did for 2 years.
It was a very hard life, and my personal belief is that nobody should have to do that for a living. And I've actually been down the pit myself when the face was working because I wanted to. I was about 32 when I arranged a visit down for myself with the party of visitors that was going. I was absolutely fascinated. I'd always wanted to go down the pit, but my father wouldn't allow it when I was young and living at home. No fit place for a woman. He used to say, no daughter of mine's going down there. I worked at Loft House as secretary to the manager when the accident happened, the disaster at Loft House.
Really celebrating the fact that who knew that, you know, Temple Newsam House was dependent on the mines in the area. That is something that without your work, I think, could have been forgotten. You know, that's the thing that we've got to remember. We've got to tell the stories. We've got to make sure that everyone in our communities really recognises just how important a contribution the miners and their families have made to the fabric of our communities, and we've got to keep that spirit going. So well done, everyone. I think this is just one of the most inspirational and fabulous projects that we've done in the city of Leeds, and I wanted to come here today to make sure that I will help to acknowledge and to tell you that your stories have been heard and listened to, and they will continue to be so. And I don't think when you started this project you realised the recognition that you would have got from this. And we're here today because you have got some awards on the back of it.